Edgar Thompson, Orlando Sentinel. He's been our go-to guy when it comes to the Gators, Florida, and much more when it comes to college football in the state of Florida. So, Edgar, thanks for your time. 365 Sports with Paul, Craig, and David. What is going on with Jaden Rashada and Florida?
First off, hey, fellas, hope everyone's doing well. I tell you, it's a moving target. We were basically blindsided to start the week. So going back just even like 10 days, I won't go back to the very beginning. We'll get to that, I'm sure, as we go. But going back 10 days, I'm at the Under Armour game in Orlando talking with this kid with an infectious personality, really great, just energy about him. And you're like, man, this guy's going to be fun to cover, and he's heading up to Gainesville, and within 2 days, he's going to be, they're checking into his dorm on the 5th of January with all the other early enrollees. By Tuesday, it's clear by some of the reporting, not my own at that point, that he's not enrolled in school. And we're like, what? And then it starts to surface it's because of a screw up with some NIL deal. So I start digging into this first thing Wednesday morning. And within like an hour, I found the right person, and I'm finding out that this was a NIL deal that they basically overpromised and underdelivered. The kid was in line to get X, but they started maybe asking for more. And I think potentially, Paul, they looked at the quarterback situation at Florida. They probably saw the way the season ended. They saw Anthony Richardson hit the NFL draft. They saw Jalen Kitna dismissed. They saw Jack Miller's performance in Las Vegas Bowl. They saw the fact that Graham Mertz is all the Gators could get out of the portal. And they're suddenly like in a position of leverage. Plus, they flipped from Miami, which was apparently had offered the kid a bunch of money, pushing $10 million. Suddenly the figure's up to $13 million apparently. Well, they have these collectives that put money together for the schools. They're a third-party entity because the schools aren't allowed to direct NIL opportunities and are allowed, in parentheses, and quote. You got to think they're involved on some level, especially when it comes to the big recruits and the big money. And this thing, somebody involved in this thing somehow got this figure juiced up to $13 million. And not everyone was apparently on the same page. It was a right hand, left hand thing within a third party affiliation. And then you have the whole university and the football program and all this stuff not knowing what's going on either. And here we are. It's a total mess. And it's an embarrassing situation. It's a national story now. And it is, people were challenging that figure out of the gate. They're like, you're wrong. And I'm like, I stood by my reporting. I talked to more than one person and got this figure from a couple of very, very good sources. And I didn't hear a peep from anyone at UF, anyone with the Rashadas, anyone. And I was pretty confident at that point. And it's since been supported by the Sports Illustrated reported it. The Athletics reported it. It's just a mess. It's like the biggest, it's one of the biggest, someone called me today and said, I'm not tooting my own horn because I don't agree with this. But it's one of the biggest recruiting stories there's ever been. Because this thing could end up, God knows where. It could end up in court if the Gators are really with a signed document saying they're going to give this kid. I'm not saying there is that. But there's at least some sort of an agreement that this young man was going to get $13 million. And wouldn't you want your money if someone told you they're going to give it to you?
Absolutely.
Yeah. This all kind of seemed in it there was going to be a school that was the first one that dealt with this. And was Florida maybe, like you mentioned, the quarterback situation, the fact that, look, Billy Napier in the SEC has a very narrow runway, even though he's the fourth coach after Urban Meyer, to get the Gators back on track before the fans will get tired and move along, that this can get kind of out of control. And you've got collective saying, sure, we'll give you $13 million, but that's a lot of money, even for a donor base like Florida, which has some big, big money behind it, to come up with for somebody who hasn't even enrolled or taken a class yet, much less attended a practice.
Well, it's crazy when you think that a 19-year-old who's never thrown a pass in the SEC is going to be making more than some NFL quarterbacks are, and more than any coach on the staff other than Billy Napier. It's just, how do you galvanize a locker room? How do you create culture and brotherhood and these things that Billy talks about all the time? You're already creating issues in the locker room with the NIL by paying X player $3,000 a month and this guy $5,000. I mean, these young men are getting checked monthly, is my understanding, to play. And it's like, and then you get a transfer coming in, like this Baylor kid. Who knows what he's getting? He might be getting whatever. Let's just say $50,000 to sign. It's like, it's crazy. So then you're throwing this guy in the mix, and it's like kerosene on a fire. You know, it's already like simmering. And then you got some kid who's never even like practiced, who needs to put on like 20 pounds. I mean, very good natural throw of the football, but we're not talking Peyton Manning in 1994 here. We don't know how good this kid's going to be. He's not a sure thing. And they got a 5-star recruit coming in 2024, DJ Lagway from you guys' neck of the woods, more or less, over there in Willis, Texas. And this kid's apparently better than Rashada. So where's I mean, it's like, it just doesn't make any sense that they would do this. But here, and you probably have another question, but here, let me just say one thing. Yes, you talked about Billy, and we can talk about the state of the program here, but this is how it went down, in my opinion, is that Florida looked at it at the start. Back in June-ish 2020, the law went in on July 1, 2020. So it's been in place for 2+ years now. And right? Is that correct?
Yep.
Am I wrong? No. Maybe it's July 1, 2021. Whatever. But right before it went in, there was a patchwork of state laws. Okay. And then there were a lot of restrictions in the state of Florida. Like you couldn't do certain things, including give NIL deals to high school kids. And so they took a wait and see attitude. And when you do that in this kind of a world now, you fall behind. And other schools were much more aggressive. Florida did not put in like an apparatus to like deal with NIL. They moved some pieces around, but they didn't go hire a bunch of people to like deal with this, right? And then Billy never wanted to get in bidding wars himself and pay players that weren't contributing to the program. So there's another way you fell behind because other people were doing that. So now they're forced to play catch up, guys, with a program that is a major rebuild and is behind. So you're like behind the chains, man, and yet another area of Florida football, which is amazing to think, but they fell behind in facilities. They fell behind in NIL now. They were behind in the portal approach. I mean, you know, that's not how you win, man. You get ahead.
No, I mean, yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, it's a messy situation. So, you know, last I saw, I mean, now there's the stories that are out there today kind of updating, you know, just this situation. But where are we as far as the latest from the Rashada side of things? Because, you know, I saw it was a couple days ago when he requested it. Then his father's like, no, that's not true. Where are we on that side of things with the family and last word with them? And, you know, what can or do you think will Florida say anytime in the near future, if anything?
Well, it's like, you know, getting blood from a stone, getting information out of these people. And I get it because they're probably trying to figure out what happened, though I have a feeling they have a pretty good idea what happened. I mean, there was miscommunication. There were promises and, you know, checks written that, you know, they couldn't cash. Not saying UF, but just like the collective and
right.
Other ancillary, you know, people that were involved in this whole negotiation. But the Rashadas claimed on Wednesday night a report that they'd requested his release from his national letter of intent was false, that they hadn't filed the request. They had not filed the request. That doesn't mean they didn't make a request for all the paperwork. They just hadn't filed it yet. So it could be semantics. Where that stands, I don't know. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Now today was the end of the first week of classes. You're hearing this is the last day to enroll. I just hung up the phone with someone. This isn't the last day to enroll. They can make exceptions, not just for him, but for a student like maybe stranded in another country. There are a lot of international students that come here, travel issues. Someone could have COVID and maybe had to sit out this week and is going to be back in next week and they have to do their classes. There are exceptions. It isn't just a Jaden Rashada is a star quarterback exception. So he can still come here. The big question is, do you want him?
Right.
You want to bring in a guy. I joked his name should be Jaden Kardashian. I like the guy a lot. But, it seems there's some diva somewhere in this family, whether it's the dad, the kid, all of them. I don't know. And it's like, do you want to bring that here? Because does it stop? Is this the end of it? Look, we've all dated a woman who's probably a little high maintenance. We all like high maintenance women. Well, they don't stop being high maintenance even if you have a good week or two with them, right? It's the way it goes. So that's just like you want to, I don't know that you want to get in with the family. I'm not saying they're not great people and maybe they end up here and maybe everything goes smoothly from there and the kid's not going to be put out in front of the cameras till spring of 2024. Billy Napier doesn't all his freshmen to speak anyway. We still haven't talked to Trevor Etienne. So who was the star of the team last year, so he can protect him and keep him out of the spotlight. And maybe that's the way it's going to go down. But, they need a quarterback, bottom line. You're going into this spring with Graham Mertz, who was, moderately impressive at Wisconsin at times, playing in a conservative offense, mind you, in bad weather. Maybe he'll flourish. He was a pretty big recruit coming out of Kansas in 2019. But that's all you're relying on. You got Ohio State transfer Jack Miller, who we saw him wasn't good. And then you got Max Brown, who's a kid from Tulsa, who's kind of a developmental guy. That's all you have in your QB room? I wouldn't feel very comfortable with Billy Napier trying to put consecutive losing seasons by the Florida program behind me.
Edgar, we got exactly what we thought, and then even some as well. We appreciate you. It's crazy. It's where we are. And thanks for your time. We appreciate it. Have a fantastic weekend. We appreciate you making time for us.
Always. Anytime, fellas. Appreciate you having me and listening.
You too. Thank you from the Orlando Sentinel. Good stuff there. I just saw a note.